Greetings. Assalamu alaikum. We are still in our Qur'anic reflections, and today we are going to talk Surah number 2, Ayah 122. 122. Let's read first. Let's start with the reading. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأني فضلتكم على العالمين. Now, if you remember, when we started talking about the children of Israel in Ayah 40, Surah 2, Ayah 40, I believe, it started in the almost exact same manner. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم. But the finishing of the ayah is different. وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِي أُوفِ بِعَهْدِكُمْ. So let's talk about the first matching part. In Surah 40, in Surah 2 and Ayah 40, and here in Ayah 122, Surah 2. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم. O children of Israel, remember the ni'mah, the blessing that I shed you with, I gave you. And we explained how much was the blessing that Allah gave to the Israeli Jews. They kept offending him, he kept forgiving them. They kept, going against him, he kept, being easy with them. Even with the worst kind of mistakes and sins, like worshipping the cow. And like telling Moses that they would not believe in him and his Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unless if Moses will let them see Allah eye to eye. وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ أَرِنَا اللَّهَ جَهْرًا. And when you said to Moses, show us Allah eye to eye. We want to look at Allah. And we will not believe in you and your message or what your Lord say if you don't fulfill this promise. And Allah put them to death. And then He revived them. So in ayah number 40, وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِي أُوفِ بِعَهْدِكُمْ, fulfill your promise to me, I will fulfill my promises to you. But here it says وَأَنِّي فَضَّلْتُكُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ, and how I preferred you over the two worlds. The two worlds. Well, over the whole world, not the two worlds. You can take it both ways. The two worlds or over the whole world. Now, what is the meaning that Allah preferred them over the whole world or over the two worlds, the world of jinn and the world of mankind? And we spoke so many times about jinn, if you remember. Now some Muslims twist this in an evil manner and think that the Israelis are better than the Muslims. They are not. Israelis are worse than the mushrik, the kafir, the idol worshippers. They are worse than any other faith and belief on this planet. We have never heard of any nation or any faith that killed its own messengers and prophets like the Israeli Jews did through their history. Yes, the vast majority of the beliefs in the world usually disbelieve the messenger and the prophet and give him a hard time, but never try to kill him. Like the case of the Israelis. The Israelis are the worst. We never heard of any other nation that required such a long list of messengers and prophets to behave. And still, the outcome is very negative. Very sad. So what Allah means by فَضَّلْتُكُمْ, I preferred you. Tafdeel, to prefer. عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ, over the whole world. What does Allah mean? How did Allah prefer the Israelis over the whole world? In what manner? Let us take, what the illiterate among the Muslims, understood this, and what they say. They say that, the Israelis are much better than the rest of the world, even the Muslims. Let's go along. All right, let's look at the history of those Israeli Jews. All right, first of all, they were supposed to live in the Holy Land, according to their book, false teaching in their book, that God promised them an everlasting possession. They never possessed the land more than a few years through their history. Most of the time, they're out, kicked out. Okay, let's start with Jacob and his children. Jacob was in Babylon serving with his uncle Laban, taking care of the sheep, for 10 years. And he married, his 4 wives, 2 daughters of Laban, and 2 servants, maid servants. And he had 12 sons and 1 daughter. Then he went back to Canaan, the land of Canaan, Palestine. In the book of Zephaniah, in the Jewish book, chapter 2, verse 5, it says, O Canaan, land of the Philistines. So Canaan is the land of the Palestinians. And the Canaanites and the Palestinians are mentioned in the Old Testament all over, in tens of verses, maybe much more than that. So he stayed for a few years because Joseph was taken from him by Joseph's brother, threw him into the well. Some traders passing by picked him up, took him to Egypt. And after 20 years, Jacob and his family followed Joseph to Egypt, again out of Palestine. That's supposed to be an everlasting possession according to their book, and false teaching. They accuse God of not fulfilling his promises. Then they all lived in Egypt until all of them died. Now from those 12 children, 12 sons of Jacob, we had 12 tribes. And the Israelis kept living in Egypt for almost 1,000 years. 500 of those 1,000 years in prosperity and richness because of Joseph and after Joseph. And then 400 years in slavery under Pharaoh until Moses liberated them. So they lived as slaves for 400, and another verse in their book says 430 years. Then they lived a miserable life in the desert for 40 years. So almost 1,000 years, miserable life. So there is no how did Allah prefer them over the 2 worlds according to some naive Muslims in their false understanding? This is not how Allah prefers anybody. If Allah prefers anybody the way those Muslims think, He would not treat them like that. Then they came to Palestine and they lived in continuous war with the Palestinians. And then they were removed from Palestine because the Lord wished that at the hands of the Babylonians. And this time, according to them, but they don't have the truth. They always have some twist. 70 years slaves in Babylon, and then they continue to be slaves under Persia that conquered and defeated Babylon. So 100 years now in slavery. 430 years in Egypt slaves, now 100 years slaves under Babylon and Persia. Then they came back and lived as slaves in Palestine under the Romans until they were plucked out by the Romans for the last 2,000 years, almost 2,000 years, until they returned 70 years back with the help of the West. Not a promise from the Lord. Those preachers who say that the Lord promised to bring them back this way, no, they are lying. They don't know how to read their book. So, for 2,000 years, miserable, all over the world, scattered, people making jokes about them, famous writers like Shakespeare wrote in mockery, and others like him, like the story of the Merchant of Venice, very sad story, portraying the Israeli Jews in a very miserable way. hated by the most of the world, and then they say Hitler, killed millions of them. They lie, of course. Only a few thousands were killed. So, if this is the way the Lord prefers, then we don't want, this preferred state. No, that's not what Allah meant. The Israeli Jews were preferred by the number of messengers and prophets. They are the only nation in human history to have such a huge amount of messengers and prophets. From time to time, they slide back to rotten ways, offending the Lord so bad, the Lord had to send them another prophet, another reminder, another warner, another messenger. They either disbelieve, they call them liars, or they kill them. So, look at the nation of Islam, the recent nation of Islam, the last page, because Abraham was a Muslim, Adam was a Muslim, all Islam. But the last page of Islam, for the last 1400 years, Muslims had only one messenger, only one prophet. For 1400 years, they did not need another one. 1400 years, they did not need another one. In 1000 years, the Israeli Jews needed, like 100 messengers and prophets to be sent to them so that they may behave. And still, even today, 80% of them are atheists. They don't even believe that the Lord exists. Imagine. So yes, Allah preferred them over the whole world in the sense that He sent them the greatest amount of messengers and prophets, those special men. Otherwise, they were the worst and the most miserable, and the Lord had to punish them over and over and over again. And their last punishment is coming soon. It's coming very soon, in the next 6 years. Their destruction, their final punishment on this earth before they reach the gathering ground and the hereafter into hell. So, يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأني فضلتكم على العالمين. And ayah 123 in Surah 2 says, واتقوا يوما لا تجزي نفس عن نفس شيئا ولا يقبل منها عدل ولا تنفعها شفاعة ولا هم ينصرون. Simple translation. O children of Israel, remember my blessing that I blessed you with, and how I preferred you over the two worlds, and fear a day. واتقوا يوما, and fear a day. لا تجزي نفس عن نفس شيئا. One soul cannot help another soul or carry some of the load and the pressure and the sins on their behalf. Each nafs, each soul will be questioned according to what it did during this lifetime. ولا يقبل منها عدل, and not even a small amount. عدل means a small amount, not a big amount. Even the smallest amount will not be accepted on their behalf. ولا تنفعها شفاعة, and nobody will say, please Lord, for my sake, let this guy or this woman or this child go to paradise. Nobody can do that. Not even Moses or their grandfather Abraham and the Muslim grandfather as well. Or any of the prophets and the messengers that tried so hard and they failed with this nation because they are so corrupt. وَلَا هُمْ يُنصَرُونَ, and they will have no support of any kind. No victory, but defeat. And those who are defeated will wind in hell. They are among the worst kind of losers. Very well. In the next ayah, 124, we're going to move, we will have a change. We covered, this part of this, the story of the Israeli Jews. So in the next ayah, we're gonna, move to a different subject. Not too far from the Israelis, but at least we are gonna go to their grandfather Abraham, who is the grandfather of the Muslims at the same time, to look at just a small part about the wonderful, blessed life and blessed man of the Lord, named Ibrahim, alayhi salatu wasalam. So until next time, be safe. Fi amanillah.